Luke, welcome to the podcast.
Andy, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for today.
Yeah, I'm beaming with a smile because I've been really looking forward to this because your Instagram, and I'm not a massive consumer of sort of social media, but one of the few accounts that I really enjoy that cracks me up continually, but also has a really powerful message is yours. So firstly, I wanted to thank you
No,
for everything you do. It's powerful stuff.
thanks, Andy. I appreciate that. And I'm having fun. At the end of the day, if you're not having fun, what are you doing? I'm having fun. And, I hope to continue doing this for a while because it feels really good.
Yeah, and you've got that just that natural enthusiasm for it, and I'm very different. So some of the stuff that you do in terms of the reels and all that wonderful stuff, for me, I just can't get my head around it. It doesn't
Yeah.
excite me. Whereas I can tell that you've got a real passion for it, and you do it so well that every time I stumble across something you've put out, it makes me stop in my tracks. Invariably, it makes me burst out laughing, and if it doesn't make me burst out laughing, it's got a great message. And then there's always a great message behind the humor as well. So I just think you've got that really nice combination of humor, which I love because I think humor is a great way to convey an important message. And then there's this underlying, part of sobriety that's a big part of your life, which is, for me, fully aligned with something that's incredibly important to me to change the world's relationship with alcohol. You're doing a great job, my man. You're
Oh,
doing a
thanks,
great
Andy.
job.
I appreciate that for sure. So thank you. But, you know, so it's kind of like our styles, right? Like I'm a huge fan of yours, Andy. I said that just before we recorded. I'll say it again now. Huge fan of yours. You're probably one of the first people that I found, especially as a male in this kind of space. One of the first was Bad Pink. That was one of the first because he has a similar type of vibe, right? He's kind of funny, he's
Yeah, yeah.
witty. But then I learned from him that you were the one that kind of trained him and got him up to to his level accreditation and everything he's doing. So I was like, wow, I got to meet this Andy guy. And then I started, seeing your videos, and then I see your podcasts, and I'm like, wow, this guy's got so much amazing information and knowledge that you have. So while I may be funny, Andy, that's my style, but I don't have near the amount of like expertise and knowledge that you have, and I look up to you so much. So I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, this is cool. Well, what I really wanted to do, and as I said to you before we come on, is get to know you a bit better. And what a better way to do that than via a podcast, because we get to share us connecting effectively with the world, or as many people that would be interested to listen. So, what is the story that led you here? You've got this account, Marathon to Sobriety, which we've both just discussed already, and we'll get into that in a bit more detail. But how did that adventure unfold for you?
So to kind of break it down a bit, I mean, when looking back, so I will be coming to 7 years sober at the end of this month, December
Oh
31st.
man.
Will be 7 years. It's crazy,
Wow. Yeah.
crazy.
See, I didn't know that straight away. I didn't know that's in your story because
Yeah,
especially in this sort of sober world, it's only really taken off in the last few years, it feels like, myself in the sort of alcohol-free space as opposed
yeah,
to the addiction space. The alcohol-free space would be one of the very pioneers at the very early stages of that. So most people that I meet are actually much earlier, periods of sobriety, a year
yeah,
or two, and they're starting to come through. I
yeah.
didn't know that. So seven
Yeah,
years,
it,
man. That's
it's so
brilliant.
my journey is kind of like twofold. The first 5 years of my sobriety, I was in the sober closet. Like I was frankly embarrassed about the fact that I was sober. I looked at it like a weakness. Like, what's wrong with you, Luke? You can't drink like a normal person. You should feel shame with that. So
Wow.
that's how it was for 5 years, Andy. Like that's a really long time to just struggle so much with my identity. Um, Big time. And no one other than my immediate family and my close friends knew the journey I was on. I was just avoiding it. I was just avoiding the conversation, never ever talked about it, lied, made excuses, never wanted to address it. And then what happened was, so I've been on this like online journey for 2 years. Exactly 2 years in January coming up. And what happened was I underwent, and I've heard you talk a lot about this too, a huge identity shift. So what happened was when I hit my 5 year anniversary, I was like, Luke, for a second, be proud of yourself. That's a long time, 5 years.
Yeah.
And the other thing that kind of shifted for me is that I'm sure we'll talk about it, but I got into distance running, like long distance running. It's become a huge passion for me. I picked that up in my recovery. But that was around the time that I had qualified for the Boston Marathon. I just got the news, and that was a huge goal for me. And I qualified for that. So I was like, right around the time of my 5 year anniversary. So I was like, Luke, 5 years, you qualified for this big race that you've been working your ass off for. I'm like, what a nice story that is. I think I'm ready to share. So the way I did it, you know, I was like, all my accounts, everything about me was a private. I'm very much a private person. So to be so public the way I've become in the last 2 years has been a journey on its own. But that's not how I am normally, right? I had to push myself. But so what I decided was I was ready to let people know. I worked for a large global company, right? Corporate America, corporate Canada. Well, I'm in Canada. And nobody in the office really knew my story. And I was like, you know what? I want to do this. If I'm going to let people know, I want to like do it right. So I
Yeah.
couldn't think of any other way to do it, like any other scarier way to do it than to do it on LinkedIn. So I shared, a 3 paragraph write up with a picture of my daughter and a sign that said I'm 5 years sober, and then a picture of my Boston Marathon qualifying email. So I put the two together, and I was so scared to do that, like terrified, but I shared it. And that was such a pivotal moment for me because for the first time in my journey, I actually started to be proud of myself and acknowledging what I've done. And it felt really good to do that. And I didn't have any really intentions other than just letting people know what I was doing. And then the next morning I woke up and my phone was just getting a lot of messages. And I was like, wow, this is something that a lot of people somewhere or another, either personally or family or someone close to them, has undergone something with alcohol or just self-improvement. And that's when I realized that, wow, this is a topic that I don't see much of, especially, and I can't wait to talk to you about this, is, I didn't necessarily hit that like rock bottom that you see, right? The people who lost a lot of things were in the hospital, and it's just I had a great corporate job, and from the outside, it looked like I had a lot of things, in order. So I was like, there's a space here to talk about people who haven't hit the bottom, but they just want to be better. And you can do that without alcohol. And I know that's exactly what you're all about with 1 year no beer and everything you've done, and now with dry. And I was like, wow, me talking to you is just like it's been a long time coming. I've been really looking forward to meeting you
Yeah.
and chatting with you. So
And
that's a bit of my story.
that's great to know exactly what I didn't know and what this podcast in many ways is all about. And it's so similar to mine in many ways. Although I'm interested and we'll sort of move forward. Why do you think that 5 years that you kept that so, as you said, you're a very private person, even though again you have this incredible like persona online now, that why do you think that you just kept that in, or that there was that sense of, I think you might have said, shame around that?
Yeah, I think it was pretty deep rooted, right? A lot of it I feel has to do with being a male. I'm half Italian. My father's from Italy, and kind of grew up with you keep your cards pretty close. You don't show too much emotion or vulnerability. That's kind of a sign of weakness. So a lot of my 5 years was on my own. I cared a lot of that, other than my girlfriend, now wife, who played a huge role with my journey, and some key close friends. I did it all by myself, and it was really hard because I just felt so much like shame and guilt, and I just wasn't proud of what I was doing. Like I said, I looked at it like I was weak. There's something wrong with me that I can't drink like a normal person. I can't, I'm that I'm struggling with alcohol, that I'm, saying things I don't mean to say, and waking up feeling like shit and all those things. So yeah, it was a long journey of being on my own, but I also like it's something I don't know, something about the number five, the anniversary, the running journey. I was ready to 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 let people know, but it was never my intent to like be this advocate for sobriety or advocate for alcohol-free lifestyle. Like that was never my intent. That was never my intent. And it was just I wanted to let people know kind of at the office. I wanted people to know just colleagues and good friends and my network. I want people to know. That was my intent. I wanted them to know. But then as soon as I started sharing, as soon as I made that post, I was getting invites to be on podcasts. People wanted to talk to me, and I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Like what? Like that's crazy! I didn't expect any of that." So that's what kind of pushed me, going to my uncomfortable a little bit. Okay, like if I can make an impact with a few other people, or I can share my story, maybe someone will revisit the relationship or just question it. Then that would be worth my time, would it not?
Yeah.
And it's been very, very rewarding, as you know, Andy, right? Like it's the most rewarding thing that I'm doing, and I hope to be able to continue doing it.
Yeah, and it is a beautiful thing. And I train lots of coaches now, and all I say to them, all you ever need is a story. Your story is so powerful. And many of them, again, face that exact same moment as I did when you share something publicly, be it on LinkedIn or social media or with a friend. And it is that moment. And I remember doing this clearly myself, going out on LinkedIn and putting a post out, not too dissimilar. And I put the post out and shut the laptop. One of those, I can't look at
Yeah.
it. I cannot look at it. I don't know who's commented on it. I just felt this urge to put it out into the world. And then, of course, you prise the sort of laptop open a bit later on. You log in, and it's like, holding your breath. Are you going to retract all these negative comments? And invariably, of course, you don't. You get nothing but support and love, and people coming out the woodwork from
Yes.
every, corner of the globe saying, that's incredible. I identify with what you've said. I'm so pleased that you've had the courage to show up and share that. And then that sets this new adventure, this whole new experience of giving back and then receiving those type of comments. That's something you've said or a reel that you've posted, or in your example, many times I'm sure people come out to say, that's made a fundamental difference to me or a loved one. Like for me, that is the greatest buzz you'll ever get. That beats a beer buzz times 1,000, and then it catapults us into this world that neither of us had laid out any plans to go on this adventure. It just sort of it happens. And I think what's similar to your story, which is nice to hear, is that I was never meant to be the person out front. That wasn't like my role. I was the sort of slightly more geeky one who wanted to sit in the background and do all the learning and read all the books and tell people about this stuff. But then I think maybe like yourself now, because I started to talk about it and share it, it just sort of unfolded into this space where the podcast turned up. And then
Yep.
you start doing a bit on social media. And then before you know it, you sort of wake up one day like full of meaning and purpose in this world that it was never the plan, which I think is the beautiful experience. It's like it is the hero's journey that Joseph Campbell talks about, and I'm seeing that unfold with you. So you post on LinkedIn, you get this wonderful, feedback response, you feel empowered by it. How does the story unfold from there?
So I start realizing that there's a message to be shared here. There's a part of my journey that I that people are relating to. So went ahead and created an account on Instagram, and started sharing a couple of things and videos, and as I'm sure you saw, my approach was kind of like to bring it a bit more lighthearted, because it can be such a heavy a topic, such a personal thing, and it can be viewed as a tough thing to talk about. So my approach was always, I want to kind of ease the tension, make it a bit more easy to talk about, more welcoming, laugh about it. I thought would be a good way for people to maybe relate to it a little bit. So I started doing that, and I was posting, a fair amount. I was getting, a lot of messages, thank yous, and like you said, I had people out of the woodwork. I had all kinds of people, old teachers, elementary school friends, just like people I just hadn't heard of in a really long time, as well as people close to me too. And it was just really, really a really, really cool feeling. And I was doing all this while I was, working full time. We live in Toronto, Canada. Uh, and things aren't cheap. So working full time and doing all this, and I was kind of in my first year, sharing a lot, and then I found like fate happened. Something happened, and I got let go. I got laid off from a company I had been with for 13 years. Like I said, a global technology company for 13 years, and I was blindsided, completely blindsided. And I just thought it was a bit of fate. So just around that time, I had gotten my, coaching certification, and I was started. Is there a way for me to take this passion of mine and purpose into something? And then I see people like you, Andy. I see, people like Matt, and I see like I think there is a way to do that, to follow something that's true to you, where you are truly passionate about it, and you're putting good out into the world. Absolutely, there's a way to have a living, create a lifestyle, or living from that. So that's what I was doing. So I got my coaching certification. It was dry January last year. So like, coming up on exactly 1 year. I went ahead. I said, you know what? I'm going to put together a dry January group. Had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
I put together a couple PowerPoint slides from my, corporate experience, and I just was putting things together and getting people to connect. And I was like, wow, this is really, really like such an amazing experience. I learned a lot about myself and just meeting other people and seeing how they're interacting, and that's when the journey started, Andy. And doing a lot of one-on-one clients, group. Pretty much every month I'm doing group, and it's the people that I'm attracting are very much like, I'm sure the people that are working with you is high achievers, right? Like people who have a lot of the things from the outside, right? They have the family, they have the career, they have the house, they have these vacation they have a lot of things, and they just know that there's another gear inside of them that they're not activating, because they're either waking up, not their best, or they're just not living up to their full potential, and they know that, and we know that deep down. But it's easy to make excuses for it, because, hey, look, I got this job, I'm making this money, I got all these things coming in, so it's not that bad, right? It's not that bad. So it's just interesting, the people that I'm attracting, similar to you. I'm sure that, because it is a unique space, right? Because most of the time you hear a lot of the rock bottoms. And by the way, I give so much credit, and so I have so much respect for those people, because the adversity and the resilience involved for that, I can't imagine. Like, it's very, very impressive. But for me, I didn't really resonate with that. So to be able to
Yeah.
share my story, I find that for a lot of people, it makes them, question things a little bit, because I'm so direct with my message. And I find that it's a good thing, because it's getting people to just think twice about it, because aren't we on autopilot most of the time, where it's like, work hard, play hard, get your work done, drink, come home after a long day at work, drink. It's so accustomed, it's so ingrained in our society, it's what you do. You don't think twice. So, just taking a
Until,
second to pause, right?
yeah. And I think that's what you do and I do. I feel like I've been running around for the last 10 years, just tapping people on the shoulder, just gently giving them a little tap on the shoulder to say, have you tried this? Like, maybe
Yeah,
the reason that you're inconsistent in the way you nourish your body, in the way you show up at work, maybe you're a bit grumpy in your relationships, has nothing to do with middle age or who you've become over time, or your personality, and everything to do with the fact that you're still quaffing those couple of glasses of vino calapso once or twice a week,
yeah,
or you're having those 2 beers with clients Tuesday and a Wednesday, and then a few more at the weekend. Maybe that's it. And I think
yeah,
that's what you're saying, and I'm saying, is that messaging has changed, because that messaging wasn't really there before. I think it was very
yeah,
much black and white when it came to alcohol. It was, you're addicted or you're not, and if you're not, you drink. Like, why wouldn't you? Unless you've been a naughty boy or a naughty girl, and then you're back in that addictive box. But everyone else, really, alcohol's fab, wonderful, great. There was no black and white. There was no gradient. sorry, until really about 10 years ago, we started to tell that story a bit more. And exactly that, I think it's appealing to a completely different genre of people. And like yourself, I have so much love and respect for everyone in this space. I believe we're all on the same team, just
Yep.
playing in different positions. We'll
I,
appeal to different people
I like that.
at different stages of their
Yep.
alcohol-free adventure. But I think if we can just keep running around, just tapping people on the shoulder, just going, look,
Yep.
wake up. And
Yep.
that's why I think I always say, and I don't know if you resonate with this, but I feel that my relationship with alcohol was the greatest blessing in my life in many ways, I would argue. It was the thing that woke me up from that sort of middle, like just mediocrity in many ways, where life
Yep.
was just
Yep.
bumbling along. It looked okay from the outside. There was enough income
Yep.
coming in and I had all those trappings of, success and whatnot. But inwardly, nah, I was struggling in many ways. Yet through that alcohol-free adventure, we go on this journey of discovery about new beliefs and new ideas and ways of acting and way of thinking. And I think that's exactly what you're articulating. And now you're appealing to this lovely group of people that are coming to work with you to share in that story. That's a beautiful thing.
Exactly. Exactly. And you said something that really resonated with me. I've actually quoted you a couple times actually in different things or speaking engagements that I've done. And you did it with Rich Roll, who I'm also a huge, huge fan of. He's a big part of kind of got me into this journey. You mentioned something like I forget exactly how you said it, so don't quote me, but it was something along the lines of, I'm not saying you're a bad parent. I'm not saying you're a bad employee or you're a bad partner, but if you work on this, you don't drink, you will become a better parent. You will become a better athlete, guaranteed. Like, you will become better. It's not saying you're bad now. And that's such a powerful message, because when you're talking about this, it can be viewed as like like people can get defensive, right? Like, what do you mean? Like, what are you trying to say? Like, by you not drinking naturally has people questioning their relationship with alcohol. We know that happens all the time. Like, I say I don't drink, all of a sudden someone's telling me what their drinking habits are. Like, I never asked you. Oh, I drink on the weekends. I drink. That's fine. But when you approach it like that, or not, or that when that's kind of the philosophy or the undermining of our train of thought around this thing, is it's much more inclusive. It's less of an attack. It's more of like, hey, I'm sure you're great at exactly what you're doing. Like, look, you've done this. You have this role. You have this family. Like, you clearly are a special person, but you just activate that other gear inside of you that you're not tackling. Like, what can you do? What does your relationship look like? What does your fitness look like? What does your career look like? Like, all these things. And that's like similar to you. My struggles, my story, all needed to happen the way they did, and it brought me to finding this like purpose and this passion that I never
Yeah,
knew existed.
it's so cool. And I think the way I always try and set that up, I always say an even better.
Yeah,
And that's the way, not to say you're not a great parent at the moment, not to
yeah,
say that you're not great at your career, but you could be even better. I think exactly that. And that message always comes back to me, that really hits home to people. They're like, oh, I hadn't even considered that. Right. And then it breaks down exactly some of that defensiveness of you trying to say that I'm not a good parent. It's like,
right.
no, you could be even better. I know you're a great parent at the moment, but
Yeah,
imagine if
yeah,
there was another level that you'd never even experienced because of this middle lane relationship with alcohol. I just want to double
yeah.
back to something you said there about Rich Roll, who's a great mate of mine, has been incredible. Not only a hero to myself, a mentor to myself, and someone that's helped me share the message far and wide. I noticed that he shared one of your posts or numerous posts of yours on one of his stories, and I was like, "Get in there, go on, Lukey boy." How did that feel?
That felt I can't, it was just to have someone you look up to so much see you and recognize you. It was a really it was a surreal moment. It was absolutely surreal. And he reshared one of my reels. It was where I was both characters, and I was kind of interviewing somebody and asking them about their drinking. And I was like, so if you drink alcohol, you feel like shit the next day. But if you don't drink alcohol, then you feel really, you good the next day. So I was like, doesn't it make sense to maybe not drink alcohol? And the character's like, wow, like, so it was a really silly, stupid video, but the message was pretty, pretty obvious, right? It was a humor on the alcohol, and it's like we know it makes us feel like shit, but we still drink it. Anyways, he reshared that, and a bunch of my friends who know I'm a huge ritual, they're like, "Did you see? I just saw it on his feed." And then I went on this little campaign. One of my friends, he's like, "Look, you need to take advantage of this." So he's like, "You need to ask your followers to if I've added any value in their life, because I don't ask for money. Obviously, I do this all for free, right? Sharing my story or on Instagram, all these things. I love doing it. So like if I've made any impact to you, I ask that you send Rich Roll a DM and ask him that I like that Luke would be a great guest to share his story." So and I tagged him on that, and he replied, he's like, "Uh-oh, like flood box is open, right?" So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
just having fun with it, like but yeah, to see him, recognizing and seeing me, it felt really, really good. And he thanked me for the work I'm doing. Like, how good did
Yeah.
that feel, right? Like, because we know this is not just like small banter things we're doing or side project. Like, this is life changing. When
Mm.
people undergo this transformation, because it really is, it's a transformation. It's a transformative journey. It's life changing. Relationships, how you view yourself, kids. I have a 4-year-old daughter, Andy, and I got sober before she was born, and that is by far my greatest accomplishment that I've ever done. To know that she's got a dad in me. I mean, I'm not a perfect dad, okay? I'm not perfect. All these things, but I don't struggle with my alcohol, and I'm always present with her, or most of the time. But I'm consistent. I'm a consistent dad, and I can't tell you how good that feels, because my dad struggled with alcohol, and it was hard for me. So to know that I'm rewriting the story, for me, for my family, it feels really, really good.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I remember my girls were still very young. They are 17 and 15 now, so they're really grown up. They're right in now they're in that grown up stage of alcohol themselves, and it's been nice for 10 years pretty much. They've had a mum
Yeah,
that drinks and a dad that doesn't. And that's
right.
like, we are so tight, me and my wife, we're a brilliant couple. We're like each other's biggest supporter, as Tara has been of me, and myself
Yep,
of Tara. And so my girls have grown up with both, in some ways, role models in their life doing slightly different things, and now it's up
yep,
to them to choose, which is, for me, a wonderful place to stand. And at the moment, it doesn't seem to be on their radar, right? They're almost
yep.
18 and going on 16, and it's just not a thing for them. I've been conducting this really strange cultural experiment. I was saying this to Bill Schufelt recently, who owns Athletic Brewing. He's the CEO of Athletic Brewing, which is a
Yeah,
brilliant
yeah.
company. But I said,
I love athletic brewing.
it's cool. And I said,
One of my
like,
favorites.
this is a new thing, right? I bet when they created alcohol-free drinks, they didn't really envisage this. But what's actually happened in my house is that my girls have been drinking alcohol-free beers since they were 13, right? Or 14. I'm happy
Yeah,
for them to drink now. There's no alcohol
yeah,
in it. But then I was
yeah.
thinking, am I training them to drink something that looks and tastes like alcohol? So is it going to come back and bite me on the bum?
Right,
And then they're going to
right,
get to 15 and they're going to be out with their friends and go, well, I drink this stuff all the time. I'll just have the alcohol one.
right.
And my youngest, who's 15, will happily go to the fridge, and you'll hear it like the crack open a bottle of alcohol. She's sitting
That's
in front of
funny.
the telly, but then neither of them really drink. And
Yeah,
so because I think they have that role modeling in their life of someone that gets such
that's
incredible results
that's right.
from not drinking. So it's cool.
That's
I
right.
think that's, like, as you say, the work we do is so incredibly important, and you bring fun to it, like I do. Hopefully, I'm always smiling and making it something that's aspirational, rather than, again, that traditional messaging, which is very much, I'm missing out. It's
Yeah,
doom and gloom. Everyone else is, they've all got incredible willpower. I've done something wrong. I've been a naughty boy, naughty girl. I can't have fun like anyone else. It's like, actually, scrap all of that. Look at all these wins. Look at all these incredible benefits you're going to get from going on this adventure with us. And look at the people having
yeah,
fun
yep,
as well. And doubling back to Rich, who's a massive hero of both of ours. Like, he has this incredible life, right? He goes around the world. He meets these amazing people. He lives his true, authentic life
yep,
as someone that doesn't drink alcohol, right? And I think that's such an inspiration for us both. And I did want to just
yep.
quickly check with you before I forget. Did you get invited on the show yet, on the
No,
podcast?
I did not. I did not. That's still a
It's a
dream,
work in
right?
progress.
I work in progress. Thank you. That's exactly what it is. Work in progress. So if I know you guys are buddies, you can let him know, hey, I had Luke on the show and he's not so bad,
Exactly.
right?
Well, I'm going out there again in March. I'm 10
Oh, are you?
years
Oh,
alcohol
wow.
free in on March the 1st. So for my
Jeez,
10-year
wow.
anniversary, I'm going to go back
That's
out
so
over
cool.
to LA and I'll be spending a bit of time with Rich. So I
So
will get a
cool.
chance to say
That's cool.
exactly that. We'll be able to say I
You're
had
a
Luke
good man. That's
on
cool.
the
Well,
show and he rocked it in a big way. So let's get on to we've got the alcohol-free story bubbling away, which is
yeah.
super powerful. But then we've also got this marathon piece in there
Yeah.
that for me is also interesting. I'm just looking at your time, like 2 hours and 50 on a marathon. How did that story unfold?
Yeah, so I was always, I played a lot of sports growing up. Hockey was in Canada was my main sport. I was skating at 2 years old. Played competitive hockey. My entire life was on the ice. 6, 7 days a week, pretty much my entire childhood. And so I was really also big into the gym. So I loved working out. I started, I was working out, 5, 6 days a week. When I was drinking, I would, so I looked really good on the outside still. Like I was, much more muscular than I am now. But, I was kind of like just kind of going through the motions, like with even my career, my fitness. It was just kind of like, it was okay, right? It was okay. And then I decided I wanted to make some changes and I was on this journey and it was like everything was still like okay at the beginning. It was like okay, but because I hadn't found this other thing that just got me excited, right? And when a friend of mine introduced me to distance running, he was sort of like, Luke, because I signed up to do a 10K race, and as soon as I finished that race, I was like, wow, something about running and the endorphins and the runner's high that I just fell in love with, and the you versus you aspect of running, because you can measure running. Like my fitness, I couldn't really measure it. Like, yeah, I'm pushing this much weight and all these things, but it's like how objective running is with the time and the community. I truly, truly fell in love with the sport. And after I ran my first 10-kilometer race, I signed up for a half marathon a few months later. I ran that and I was like, wow, I'm really, really enjoying this running thing. And that's when COVID happened, 2020. And when a lot of people were probably not running as much because races were canceled, I did the opposite. I doubled down. I hired a coach, right? We talked, I think in one post we shared some message like life's greatest kept secret is coaching, like having the accountability and the guidance of
Yeah.
somebody. So I did that with my running. So I hired a coach virtual and he helped me with the plan, all these things. And I just started running and it helped me so much with my journey, giving me a routine, structure, goals. I met a lot of incredible people. I found running allowed me to become a more patient person, a better husband, father, all these great things. And then I decided, I want to push it a bit. And that's when I said, you know what, I'd love to qualify for the Boston Marathon one day.
And what does that
Eh,
look like? So what is there a time that you have to
Yeah,
achieve?
so I needed my age group. I was I'll be 40 next year, so I was 37, I believe, and I needed to do 3 hours, sub 3:05, sub 3 hours and 5 minutes
Wow.
marathon. So it's obviously a big goal. I had never ran a marathon before, but I trained, I worked my ass off. I was very, very disciplined with my running. And I really, frankly, I fell in love with my running. And it just, I worked really hard. I was able to qualify on my first marathon.
Wow.
And it was such a cool experience. Like it was a very emotional experience to see what you can do when you stick to something. Because like I was never a runner growing up. I picked up running like a few years ago in my alcohol-free journey, right? So it's like it was such a powerful message to me that it's like it doesn't matter what it is. Like you pick something and you believe in yourself and you go for it. You have the right support, the plan, and all that. It's like what else? What else can you do? Like what else can you do? That's one thing, right? But it's been a lot of fun. You know, I ran Boston, I ran Chicago Marathon this year. You know, it's been the best thing to happen to me, honestly. Like running has been the best thing for me. My mindset, just so many things, and I hope to continue running because I love it. I love what it does to so many areas of my life.
And do you think there seems to be an association between going alcohol free and running? It seems to be this thing that fits together. Why do you think that is?
I so I think people who you know who are drinking or people who are in recovery, they're some of the most passionate and dedicated people. Like when you're drinking and you want to keep drinking, you'll probably you'll find a reason to drink. Like you're convinced you want to have a drink. You're convinced you'll fight tooth and nail to do that thing. So you pivot, you shift that excitement, that passion into something positive. You know that will move your life in the right direction. Like it's incredible what you'll do, and it's just the fuel that you get from the run, like that runner's high is so much better than any of the highs that I had before because there's no come down and it lasts longer and it just makes me want to do more positive things. Like I've been running in the mornings, right? Super early with the family and stuff. So I set myself up to do that run, even though I'll tell you, I'll be honest, half the time I don't want to go for my run because I'm in marathon training. I'm running over 100, 120 kilometers a week. So I'm running a lot. So half the time I don't want to go. But I know when I'm done, I will always feel better. Like
Yeah.
this morning, I felt better. So, but what that does now is I'm in that mindset and I'm just like, what else? What else? Okay, this was a great start to the day. Now what? Now what? You know, and it just sets you up to
Yeah.
be the best. Like my best version of myself is as a runner without a doubt. Like as a sober athlete, I identify, and we talked about identity. I identify as a sober athlete. You know, I'm a sober badass. I'm a badass. Like I am proud to be sober. It's a friggin' beautiful thing, and I'm so proud to be a runner because the community is just so like-minded, so positive, uplifting, no judgment. We're just pushing each other, and it's absolutely incredible to be a part of that.
Yeah, I identify the same. I'm a sober badass. I can't say it
Yes.
as well as you, though. You say it better than me, but I like that. I'm going to
Yeah.
keep it. And as a sober athlete, I'm pushing 50 now. My favorite thing in the world to do, I was a professional soccer player,
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
was to run. I love running,
Yep.
but I can't run due to the same injury that stopped me playing soccer.
Yeah.
I can't consistently run. There is a big hole in my life for that. I wish I could run. I'd love to run. So I walk everywhere
Yep.
and
Yep.
anywhere as much as I can. It's the second best thing that I can get
Yep.
to. And then I combine that with strength training. And I really see myself in the same vein, right? Heading towards 50, fitter than I've ever been in my life. I lift heavier, my heart rate's lower than it's ever been. I just want to continue that optimal health, really, to have the strength and the energy to keep sharing this message. And I think it gets more powerful even as we mature into it, which is the exciting thing. And I wanted to come back to something you said there about coaching. And I'm interested in your coaching story because I'm a massive fan of coaching. What happened for me, I trained as a coach 12 years ago. So 2 years before I went alcohol free, which most people don't know. And that experience changed my life. I trained with a guy called John Grinder. I was very lucky, who was the co-founder of neuro-linguistic programming, the same guy that trained Anthony Robbins, that set Anthony
Mm,
Robbins on
yep.
his way. I was very fortunate. I had 10 days with John Grinder and it fundamentally changed my life. And then I
Yep.
used those skills. I was my own best client for the first
Yep.
2 years, of learning all those skills and tools and techniques. And that gave me the space and the reflection time and the skills and techniques to eventually transform my relationship with alcohol. And then I've been coaching in and around that space for 10 years and helping people turn their passion into something that can be profitable for them, right? Which is so
Yep.
important because I think
Yep.
there can be a bit of stigma around that as well, especially in the alcohol free space, that, it all should be free and we should give everything away. And
Yep.
I liken that to, the fitness world. Of course, you can put your
Right.
trainers on and go for a run, or you can invest in a coach. You can invest
Yep.
in Zumba or rock climbing. And it's important that we give people this plethora of options
Yeah.
So they can choose. Those that want to just put their trainers on and run can do that. Those that want to work with a coach can do that. And I think
Yeah.
the alcohol-free space hasn't had any of that before. There was one
Hmm.
option and one option only.
That's
And
right.
now it's so important that there's more people coming into the space. And a big part of what I do is train coaches as well,
Yep.
executive coaches, but in with the specialism of alcohol-free coaching. And I know
Yep.
that's something you're passionate about. I know it's something that you do. So let's talk about that a little bit more, how that came into your life, what that looks like now, because I think it'd be great for our listeners to hear.
Yeah. So for me was, I'll tell you, the course that I took was not like it was a course out of British Columbia in Canada. It was an online course, 1 week online course, and then I did alcohol-free coaching with Carolina, which is another sober account. I'm sure you know who she is. So the journey for me getting certified was not a complicated one by any stretch of the means, right? Like if you compare it to other professions, like it's online, it's a few whatever it is, it's hours, it's time, it's an investment, yes. But for me, the real impact or the real change that comes from this has to do with my ability to help people find the light within themselves, like believe the self-belief,
Yeah.
the ability to do things they never thought possible. That that to me is, and leveraging my story with kind of the things I had undergone, a bit of my running, a bit of my kind of middle age drinking or middle ground drinking area, not really identifying like gray area drinking, not identifying as an alcoholic, somebody who drank on the weekends. So for me, what gives me the greatest joy with my coaching is just seeing the transformation that people are undergoing. That you don't need to make your life any more complicated to make some changes, right? And I love what you said too, the black and white thing. It's not black and white. I'll tell you, like for example, in my dry December group coaching, I have a few people who are not sober. They're not sober. They're not sure what their path looks like, right? They're not sure. And I welcome that so much, and I give them so much credit for coming to this group, because it's so much more than just sober, right? In quotations,
Yeah.
like sober coaching. It's so much more than that. It's a power up group, and we meet on Sunday nights, and it's like after a long week, the last thing probably people want to do is to be on this call. But like those people who show up are exactly the people that you want in your life, that are about, nobody has the answer. And I say it all the time. I don't have all the answers, eh? We're working, we're all figuring this out. We all know that we just want to feel better and be our best. So for you, that may look a little bit different than for me. It's not a playbook, or we're following the playbook 1 to 12 or whatever. It's not that. That's not what it's about. It's identifying it's self-discovery. What does it mean to you? I know what it means for me. Okay. I know what it means. And that's zero alcohol. I've tried to reintroduce it. I've tried to moderate, like, why would I do that to myself? That does not end well. I know that for me, but for other people, I mean, who am I to say that's the path for you? So I welcome very much openness in my coaching style and my approach. And a lot of people I've worked with want to be sober, and I've gotten them sober, and they're well on this journey. We're very close, and we still keep in touch. A lot of people have been working with me for a long time. They continue to show up to the groups. They just love the accountability of having these positive people in their lives, that it's because you don't want to take this thing for granted either. And me being involved as a coach, it, yes, I love paying it forward. I love helping others. I love, being a part of their journey. But even more than that, it helps me. It keeps me strong. It keeps me accountable. It keeps me on the right path. So that's a big reason why. Uh, Obviously, I love helping others, but like for me, it's the best thing that I've done for my own journey, my own recovery.
Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing about coaching in general, that all of the information, all of the learning is filtered through you. And I think if you spend a lot of time then teaching and coaching around that topic, it just further enhances and deepens that learning. I always joke and say one of the
Yeah,
best ways to stay sober is to start a movement that inspires hundreds of thousands of people and then bang on about it every day. That's probably one of the best ways to stay sober. But it is because we all
yeah,
learn and we all grow together. And I think that's for me what coaching does. It accelerates that the learning for people. And if we look at the stages of
Yep.
change model, this is the trans-theoretical model of James Prochaska. There's all these different stages that people can be at. They can be in pre-contemplation when they're not even really aware of their relationship with alcohol. They might step into something that looks like the contemplation stage. And in there, that's where all that ambivalence is, the sort of love-hate thing going on with relationship with alcohol. They don't know what their long-term relationship with alcohol is going to be, as you described beautifully there. It could be that for them, it's complete sobriety. For others, it could be that they're mostly dry. For others, it might be tactical breaks. They don't quite know where they're at with it. And I think that's where we do a lot of our work. I think we do a lot of our work raising consciousness from the brilliant, input that you have on social media through the reels and whatnot, through the podcast. We're sort of waking people up. We're moving them along that. And then there's the next stage, preparation stage. And then there's the action stage. And I think what happens is with alcohol, and I'm glad you brought that up, we define almost change by action. So we assume unless someone's actually stopped drinking, then they've not actually taken any action. But as you just pointed out brilliantly there's people within your group that are not already even at that place. They're just spending some time to learn and grow and hang out with some incredible people and expand their mind a bit. And when they're ready, they might step into the action. I think that's an important thing to put out there as well, that it doesn't have to be defined by how many alcohol-free days you've had. I think it's that spirit, that awakening of, actually, I'm looking at this a bit differently.
Yes, absolutely. So well put. And another thing you said that stood out to me was the number of days. It's not about the number of days because, and I've heard you say this too. I don't know if I read it or I saw it because I think I remember seeing something of, at the beginning of the journey, if you're on this path to not drink, for example, right? You don't want to drink for, let's say, 30 days. Okay. You drink almost like, not expect it, but don't quit after that, because it's easy to say, it's not for me. I tried it. I failed. Look at the scoreboard. It's back at 0. Like, what, that number 0, what does that represent? That doesn't show any of the growth, anything that you went through in that time period. That's why tracking days, I completely get it. Like, it's a good thing to see progress. I used to track my days. I don't anymore. But that's what I hear. People are obsessed with the clock and tracking their days. I always want to be very careful with that, because you're the growth that you're going through can't be tracked in days. Can't be tracked in days. So number of days, they don't mean much, in my opinion. Because somebody who's sober 10 years, or right, could be a lot less mature, developed than somebody who's been sober for 3 months, in my opinion, right? The growth and the transformation and the lifestyle and the attitude that they bring to their lives, that person, in my opinion, that 3 months, that example, is more, in my opinion, more recovered and happier and healthier than that miserable person who's 10 years sober and who's just you don't want to be around, doesn't have that positive energy, is still resentful, all these things. So days don't mean much, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to say that. Like, even me, I'm 10 years in, and let's just say I had a drink tomorrow, right? Let's just say that happened for whatever reason. Would that mean the last 10 years are a waste?
For nothing?
Of course it wouldn't.
Exactly.
It'd be like one day in my life. So what? Be drop in the ocean.
Exactly.
And I think that's the important message to get across. And what I often do as a coach, I'm sure like yourself, actually, I train a lot of people around the days that it's going to go wrong. I own the fact that most likely, if you look at the science behind change, it's natural that there's learning points in there, which are, the moment that it doesn't work out, a failure, a blip, a slip, departure from the wagon, whatever you want to call it. That's healthy. In most people's ability to make long-term change, they have to go around that cycle. So I liken it to a corkscrew. Which I really like that analogy. It's not that you go back to start again, because you're always slightly higher on the corkscrew.
Yeah.
And then eventually you figure it out. So a lot of the coaching that I would do with people, especially on one-to-one, is coach them around when it's going to go wrong. And they're like, almost, but why are we doing that?
Yeah. Why are we doing that? Are you being negative?
Yeah.
No.
Are you trying to say that, like, you don't believe in me? And,
that's right.
And I talk them through Prochaska's change model. I'm talking through the corkscrew. And I'm like, look, it's perfectly normal. I'm not giving you license to slip up. Right. And it will hurt if you do, because you'll be disappointed. But if you do, What are your
Yep.
options? How are you going to
That's right.
bounce back quicker? What can you learn
That's
from
right.
it? And I know if I can get in their heads and that moment comes, and it will come for most people, instead of
Yep.
them sweeping it under the carpet and feeling shameful and disappearing, they're like,
Yep.
oh, I know what to
That's
do
right.
here. I've got options. I can bounce back from this. What can I learn from it so it doesn't happen again? Boom. And they might have a
Boom.
couple of them, 2, 3, 4 or more, but
Yeah.
then they get it. This is the secret, I think.
It is the secret, and that it happened exactly in my call last night, Sunday. Somebody was very proud that they didn't drink for a certain amount of time, the holiday parties, all these things, and then the next day, after a big event that they did not drink, they were proud of themselves. Like, hey, I went to this corporate event, I didn't drink. The next day, they drank, and what they came back and they shared that in the meeting. The fact that they showed up to the meeting,
Yeah.
they were like they shared that, and it was how powerful that was for them, for the listeners, for me. That, to your point, exactly what you just said, like how you come back, how you bounce back. What does that say about you? What does that say about you? So powerful.
Yeah. And I think that's where we have a role as coaches and people that are out there to really share this slightly different message to what's been the traditional message of,
Yeah.
this is how we bounce back. This is a
Yeah.
long term. And you
Yeah.
said it brilliantly. It's not about the days, it's
Yeah.
about who you're becoming as a person. It's about getting outside your comfort zone, rediscovering
Yeah.
your authentic energy, authentic self, learning how to socialize again without alcohol, being that role model that you want to be, being
Yeah.
that even better parent, even better partner. That's where the growth is. That's where the learning is. It's not in a numbers
That's right.
game. That's just a
Exactly.
sideshow to what's going
It's
on, this evolution.
it's so I love it. It's like it's not it, you know what it also is? It's you cannot, it's not a pass or fail. It's not black or white, pass or fail. It's more than pass or fail. It's not, what's am I passing? Am I no. It's, are you learning about yourself? Are you are you growing? Are you reevaluating things that you didn't? Are you failing and bouncing back? Because on our failures, that's an opportunity for a lesson, to learn something about yourself. Right? I
Yeah.
needed all those failures in my life to bring me to where I am today. Every single one. Those things that I would never say out loud again, that I carry with me, or that I've worked through them. But every little thing that's happened in my life needed to happen the way it did. I have zero regrets. Zero. I needed everything to happen, because if they didn't happen like that, I likely would not be here talking to you today,
Exactly. I say it was a lucky wind that blows the house down sometimes, and it's taken us
Eddie.
on this little adventure. And here we are having this
Yeah.
lovely conversation. And then on
Yeah.
that note, so with that growth in mind, what does the future look like? What's happening now, and what's going to happen in the future for you?
What's bringing me a lot of excitement these days, Andy, is the Sober Run Club that I've started. I
Oh,
just started it not even 2 weeks ago. Obviously I'm a big sober athlete and I talk a lot about my running, but I'm creating this like sober running community, and it's been amazing. So I'm based in Toronto, Canada. So we've had two runs in person, and just to see people that are just, again, not everyone in the club is quote unquote sober,
yeah,
right? Very curious, like a lot of people who are curious,
yeah,
maybe they just want to support, or they're just interested to know what this is all about. I welcome them, right? So it's been so powerful. But the other thing is too, most of my friends that I'm meeting online don't live in Canada, right? They're UK a lot, US, all over the place. So I'm trying to create like an online kind of community with the running, where they can share their runs, and like the sober athlete space is massive. There's, for anyone who's listening, and you're on the journey, but you're not doing something active, I really challenge you to look at something, because the mind and body are really, really connected, I find. A healthy body is a healthy mind. So it doesn't need to be running, could be walking, could be, whatever it could be, but just something. So that's like my little project right now that just brings me a lot of joy. It is bringing people together through running. And by the way, it's not just running. We have people who come and walk, people who come on their bikes. It's just active. It's an active lifestyle. And it brings me a lot of joy to be doing that.
yeah. That is so cool. And where can people find out more about that and more about you?
So I created an Instagram handle for the run club. We're called the Sober Striders. So I think the Instagram is Sober Striders Run Club, all one word. Just started a couple weeks ago, but I'm really looking forward to see what we could do there. And then my Instagram is at marathon, the number two sobriety. My wife helped me come up with that one. You know, sobriety is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not a crash
Yeah.
course. You can't just read a book and say, okay, I'm going to cram for this exam. It's so much more than that. It's a marathon. So also on there, I have the website marathon2sobriety.ca, and you can learn a bit about more of my programs and different things that I do to help people.
Wonderful. And I'm going to put another one in the future, the Rich Roll Podcast.
Yeah.
It's going to be there. I can see it. You got to do it. You got to do it.
Uh,
Keep that. And I say, I'll be out there in March. I'll be putting in a strong word for you, my man.
Thanks, Andy.
And just to thank you for everything you're doing. I've been thrilled to actually share the story. 'Cause there's much of the story I didn't know, and what you're doing on the social media and whatnot is just incredible. I put the word genius very often under some of your reels. You've probably noticed, because I'm
Yeah.
like, that is genius. It's made me laugh. It's just engaging, and I know it's tapping people on the shoulder. It's
Yeah.
tapping more and more people on the shoulder, just like myself, just waking them up, going, look at this dude. He's funny. He's fit. He
Yeah.
doesn't drink. Go and check out. There's got to be something in that, and I think that's what you're starting to do, and you're awaken, many people from their slumber, where we were both
Yeah.
at one
Yeah.
point, and we're
Totally.
both waking people up. So
Yeah.
thank you, my man, for joining me today on this podcast, and exciting times ahead.
Thanks so much for having me, Andy. So much respect for you, what you're doing. You're really giving people like me so much to be excited about in this space. So thank you for all that you do.
Legend. All right, let's do this.